Hello everyone, my name is Sakivali, or as some of you guys know, TestSubjectLizzy. Now, today, I'm talking about Satisfactory, specifically Hypertubes in Satisfactory. Now, if you haven't seen my last video on Satisfactory Hypertubes, I'm just going to give you a short rundown. Currently, we have a junction in the game that everyone pretty much uses for their hypertubes, but it has a critical downfall, in my opinion. It requires you to hold left or right. And if your tube curves, or you're looking in the wrong direction, holding left or right before the junction, if you're planning on holding it in advance, will just stop you from moving. So you have to hold it right when you get there, which means you have to pay attention, and if you're anything like me, you miss your hypertube junctions all the time. So what if I told you there was a really easy way to basically just hold a button or not hold a button, and that determines where you go for your next junction. So you can hold it well in advance, you don't have to move your mouse, you just hold it and you just, go watch YouTube or something. Speaking of which, subscribe. I like seeing good numbers go up, Anyway, so today I come at you with two new Hypertube junction designs based off of the same concept of the original TSL Hypertube junction, and that is sorting the player by their hitbox size, meaning you either hold crouch or you don't. It's that easy. Now, the last version had three major flaws. The first was it was massive. By that I mean it was multiple foundations tall, and it was a pain. Second of all, it arrested your momentum completely, meaning you were slowed down, and it had to do that because of how this sorter worked. And the final feature I improved on these junctions is the previous one was unable to go in reverse. So the standard one, if you go enter in reverse, it acts as a merger, merging you back onto the main line. Now, this was a problem. I really couldn't find a solution until I finally actually decided to sit down and just think. And I designed a better player sorter, and I also designed a new merger that fits really compact. And the new player sorter is so precise that I can hit it at any speed, and it doesn't matter. And so this is what led me to create the first junction of the two I will be showing you today. Now the good thing is I don't have to make a tutorial because blueprints are a thing, so download in the description, nice and easy. So this one is about a foundation and a half long, a foundation wide, and 4 meters tall. Now this one I used my new player sorter. Previously I used to use two concrete or barriers, and now I'm using a beam as well to get a very precise height. And so now you can compact it down, and it's also faster than the last one and doesn't cancel your momentum as much. However, it still does slightly lower your momentum on certain routes, which sucks because that's not what you want in a hypertube, right? You want to go nice and fast. Also, it needs a floor. Well, it doesn't, but it looks ugly without a floor because of the conveyor belts, which was the other problem. They both use conveyor belts, and that's where the third one comes in. Now, unlike the previous one, this one is a lot bigger. By that I mean it's half a foundation longer, and not much more. It also doesn't have conveyor belts, and it uses a new design of the player sorter. So it uses the same as the previous junction, but I realized that instead of stopping the standing player, I could build it in such a way that it deflects the standing player, so it maintains their momentum. And then I don't need to use conveyor belts to shovel that player somewhere, and I don't have to worry about people being slow on the crouch part. And so I built this new one, which I'm calling the fast version. It is slightly bigger, but it gains you momentum due to like a bunch of hypertube cannons inside of it. And it works in all directions, of course. It has everything that the previous has, but it has the advantage of being much quicker. It's also more expensive because, like, a bunch more hypertube cannons in it, but, like, You could, of course, just use the small one with a couple hypertube cannons, but I personally prefer the other one. And this one, you can remove the floor on, you can hang it if you want it to look like it's hanging. It's nice and easy, and once again, blueprint in the description. But yeah, that's all I have to show you. They work in all ways, and it's great. Now, of course, you could always just build like a hypertube cannon and launch yourself halfway across the map, which would completely, disable all the effort I just put into this. But we're going to choose to ignore that fact because I don't like Hypertube cannons because I play on a laggy computer. I use Hypertube cannons into my Hypertubes because then I can control where I go. Now, as you can tell, I care a lot about Hypertubes. I actually put way more effort into Hypertubes than I do anything else in the game. And I have a couple of designs here that I've used and ones that I haven't used here for different features from a Hypertube. So my question to you guys is, would you be interested in watching a video where I kind of just go through these designs of things you can use in your Hypertube networks? Because I've spent a lot of time designing them. Things like one-way sorters, momentum arresters, and a bunch of other things, like the new merger, which also allows you to create entrances on your main line because it has a priority to the main line and you can just merge on, which is just nice. So yeah, just let me know down in the comments. Also let me know if you appreciated that. It always helps out, and share it because I don't have a big audience. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope you enjoy this video and enjoy not having the pain of not being able to hold a button down. And now this is doesn't have any downsides other than the cost, but no one cares about cost in Satisfactory because, let's be honest, you can just build a factory and make more of them, or just AFK overnight. No one cares. So they have no downsides. So yeah, here's a better Hypertube junction than what everyone else uses. Enjoy. Blueprint in the description.